Derek Carr ready for battle with the Chiefs. Can the Saints defense stop the great Patrick Mahomes? Ladies and gentlemen, we are here with T-Bob, Jacob Hester, and Off the Bench Saints. We're previewing the Kansas City Chiefs versus the New Orleans Saints on Monday Night Football. I, of course, am the face of the franchise. Let's go ahead and watch and react like only we can do, shall we?
Let's talk Saints Chiefs Monday Night Football, a game that now the Saints need more than ever. You lose this game, you are starting to fall behind your division rivals and the Bucs and the Chiefs. Excuse me, the Bucs and the Falcons will be 3-2, whereas you'll be 2-3. If you win this game,
but then if you beat the Bucs the following week, you're both 3-3. So it is important to win, but this is not a season on the brink kind of thing. I mean, you don't want to drop 3 in a row, but again, not a situation where we lose this game, the rest of the season is in the trash can.
Well, then it's all completely different. Not only will you have beaten the undefeated Chiefs, so it'll give you a lot of confidence going forward and create a lot more belief amongst the fan base, but then you're 3-2, you're fine, you're right there with everybody else in the division. However, when I look, I believe that the Saints lose this game, and it's for a very simple reason.
Okay. Now, this is an interesting game because if you look at the numbers, the metrics, the whatever, the Saints are playing better than the Chiefs. Offensively, defensively, playing better. The only thing the Chiefs have that is like, well, the Chiefs are going to win because that fill in the blank, the only real thing they have is Patrick Mahomes. Like, that is the fill in the blank. That is it. Because if you say, well, the Chiefs have the better defense. No, they don't. Well, the Chiefs have the better offense. No, they do not. Well, the Chiefs have the better playmakers. They do not. Well, the Chiefs are healthy. No, they are not. It's the Chiefs have Patrick Mahomes. And Patrick Mahomes is supposed to win, so I'm picking Patrick Mahomes. That's it. And on one hand, it's a very lazy way to do this. But on the other hand, there's something kind of to Patrick Mahomes, like the Tom Brady's of the world when he was playing, where it's like, they just find a way. Like, how the hell? Last year, I made plenty of videos, and I said, look, the Chiefs ain't winning this year. You don't win with a wide receiver core like that. You can't do it. And they went and did it. You know, like, there's plenty of times where Patrick Mahomes wins because he is Patrick Mahomes. But that's really kind of it in this spot of why someone would take the Chiefs. So I'm expecting T-Bob, right now, I'm expecting him to say, because they have Patrick Mahomes.
The Chiefs are great at winning games, and the Saints are not. And what I mean by that is a lot of times in the NFL, and this kind of goes back to something we were talking a bit about last night, but like in the NFL, these games are decided by razor-thin margins, right?
True.
And the margins could be so small that after the game, you can look at it and say, man, that was, just a bit unlucky.
Yeah.
Like if this had happened, then you win the game. This happened, you win the game. But if the margins are so small, why do some teams consistently end up on the positive side of the ledger while others end up on the negative, right?
Well, the answer to that is, I mean, I don't want to get all the way into this theory, but like it's expected value versus negative expected value. If a team that's really well coached and really efficient and executes really well and all of that, if they constantly make small incremental positive expected value decisions and plays and whatever, more than likely that team is going to come out on top a majority of the time. And we see it in today's NFL where there's so many mistakes that are made at the micro level. I'm talking about like wasted timeout here, let 10 seconds run off here before calling the timeout, running the ball when you should have thrown the ball, challenging when you shouldn't have challenged, kicking instead of going for it, 2-point conversion instead of the extra point instead of the 2-point conversion. We see those every single day. Like, we see those every single game, every single day. I mean, the coaching, the decision-making, the game theory is so bad across the league and almost league-wide that the few teams who do it close to perfect every time, those are the teams that win those razor-thin margins. Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, the Kansas City Chiefs, they're one of those teams. Just like the Bills, Chiefs, AFC Championship game with the 14 seconds left or whatever. That whole game, as great as Josh Allen was, as great as Patrick Mahomes was, as great as everything was, as great as Harrison Butker was, as great as whatever, if Sean McDermott just tells his team to kick a pooch kick off the kickoff instead of a touchback, the Bills win the game. That's it. That is the whole, that's how thin that game is right there. Clemson, Alabama. There was a Clemson-Alabama national championship game where I think Clemson wins with like 7 seconds left. If Alabama just defensive holds on the play, Clemson doesn't win that game. They burn the clock. They have to run it again. That's it. It's like these super small, intricate game theory moments is right now what's mattering in all of these games. And the Chiefs are a team that basically do the expected value, the positive expected value every single play of every single game.
Like, the Chiefs are 4-0, but every single game has been incredibly close. They could be 0-4. Whereas the Saints...
I'll give you a Chiefs example this season, 4th and 16 against the Bengals. How many times do we see teams throw the ball 3rd and 16, 3rd and 14, 4th and 20, and they throw the ball short of the sticks? Patrick Mahomes takes the positive EV play, pushes the ball down the field, gets the pass interference. Should it have been pass interference? Different debate. The point is that he knew, okay, like the Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts, 3rd and 16 against the Saints. That was a negative EV play to throw it to Dallas Goedert right there. Now it worked out. That's the variables of the game. As long as you're playing with an oblong ball, there's going to be variables of randomness. In the long run, that play is hurting his team's chances of winning. Patrick Mahomes understands that. But Patrick Mahomes is never going to make the negative EV play in that situation. And that's why it's constantly like, man, how do the Chiefs keep getting out of these situations? How do they keep figuring out 3rd and 15, 4th and 10, whatever? And it's because they're constantly doing the most beneficial play for them at that moment.
Or 2-2. And as we've kind of been a theme through the postgame last week and through this week, have found a way to lose by razor-thin margins more consistently than not in the Dennis Allen era. So it's not as easy as just a bad break here or there. And so what I'm landing on is those razor-thin margins, which seem so small, are created by an accumulation of even tinier moments, right?
Those are the positive EV
and the
plays,
good teams consistently stack those tiny moments, those tiny wins. And at the end of the day, they end up creating the win. Now, they get lost when measured against the big touchdown play or the big sack force fumble. But both teams have those. It's those small moments that ultimately decide whether or not you win or lose. And the Saints...
I always use this reference when it comes to this, but I think about like blackjack, okay? And if you know how to play blackjack, you know that if a dealer is showing a 5 and you have a 4, you should stay and you should let the dealer bust. Well, if you stay and you're sitting on 14 and the dealer has a 5 and the dealer flips a 10 and then the dealer flips a 6 and the dealer lands on 21 and wins, it's easy to be like, damn, I should have hit because then I would have had 20. You should not have hit. Like, just because in that situation, that's the big play that T-Bob's talking about. In the long run, you staying, even though you lost on that hand, you staying in the long run, you will win because you are making the positive EV play. If you hit right there and get the 6, it may feel good, like, oh, damn, I just won. I hit and won. But you should not have done that. And that's a negative EV play, like the Eagles. The Eagles hit and won, and they should have stayed. Hurts with a negative EV play, throws to the Goddard, broken coverage, whatever. So if you play blackjack for 10 hours straight and you're constantly making negative EV plays, you will get busted. You may win some hands, but you will go busted. Whereas if you make the positive EV plays, you have a much better chance to come out on top in the long run. That's what the Chiefs do. The Chiefs sit down at the table and they say, we're going to play this thing perfect. We're going to play it perfect and put ourselves in the best chance to win, no matter what the situation, no matter how high the stakes, no matter the outcome. And I mean, they do it better than anybody in the NFL.
Just make too many little mistakes. And the Kansas City Chiefs do not. The Chiefs push and push and push, and with a little help from the refs, they just find themselves consistently on the winning side. So I'm not even getting into matchups or injuries or anything else like that. You're going into Arrowhead. The Chiefs know how to win. You do not. I think the Chiefs win this game.
Now, here's the problem with that. Here's the hole in that logic. Is because if you did that, then the Chiefs would win every game, right? But because you are playing with a oblong ball that does not bounce straight all the time, and there is randomness, and there is variables, and all that stuff does matter, you do then have to go into the matchups. And then you do have to go into the situational spot and the scheduling and you have to start factoring in all of this and all of that. And then once you do all of that work, then you finally have something close to a handicap. Something close to, okay, here's what I think the game script will be. Here's how I think this will go. Do I think the Chiefs will win because of what T-Bob's saying? Maybe. But you have to do the work to then decide, okay, well, actually, how do they win? The score is not going to be 1-0. It's not going to be Chiefs don't make mistakes, Saints do, 1-0 Chiefs. So how are the Chiefs scoring? How are the Saints scoring? How are the Chiefs not scoring? How are the Saints not scoring? Got to do that deducing. And if you do that deducing, you get to where the matchup is, well, actually the Saints match up really well here. You look at that matchup and you say, okay, the Saints defensively are better than the Chiefs. The Chiefs are very weak through the air. The Saints are going to have to beat the Chiefs through the air. Can the Saints do that? That begins the handicap. The Chiefs are really strong on the defensive line. The Saints are going to want to run the football. Can they find a way to run the football against this really, really good Chiefs front? If they can't, does that mean the Saints lose? Like now you start clicking boxes. You start figuring things out. You start looking at this thing. And so when I look at it, it looks to me like a dead under game. And it looks to me like a really tight battle, a one-possession game. Somewhere in the neighborhood of 24-20, 23-20, 21-20, 21-17, somewhere in there. And if you get in that situation, because someone in the back say it, it's an oblong ball that bounces randomly. If you're in a one-possession game, you got the ball in your hands with a minute left, 4-point game, I'll take that chance. I'll take that shot.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty simple. They got 15 and you have 4.
Mm-hmm.
At the end of the day, that's what they have. That's what you have. And they've been able to win every close game because he hasn't looked great, but when he needs to make the play, it's almost in absolutes. He makes the play. And so it's hard to go against them in that building. I played in that stadium 6 times. It's hard. Even when they're bad, it's hard. They're not bad. They haven't been bad in a long time. And so to expect someone to go on the road, big primetime matchup, and do the little things right to win it, I can't get the Saints there right now.
And let me make this clear. Like, I don't have a problem with saying the Saints are going to win this game. Like, I do not have a problem with either of these hombres saying the Chiefs are going to win. I expect the Chiefs to win. Everyone expects the Chiefs to win. They're a 5.5-point favorite at home, Monday Night Football. They have Patrick Mahomes. They're undefeated. No doubt about that. But you do have to then strip it back to, okay, well, I do think the Saints have a chance. And I do think the Saints cover the number. You know, like, I don't, on one hand, I understand. I understand this whole, like, brother, it's Patrick Mahomes. I understand that. But it's not that easy, right? Like, it's not that simple. We have to handicap this. We have to find we have to figure out, okay, well, are we taking the Chiefs minus 5.5? You're taking the Saints plus 5.5. Are you taking the over? Are you taking the under? And maybe it's just because this show is a little bit more of a sports betting show, but we do have to do the work. And we do the work. And the work leads me to a really tight game. And that's how upsets happen.
Saints have too many deficiencies on offense, even with a better system, and a system that is hiding a lot of things right now, which a system is supposed to, and that's what they're doing. Just the injuries and some of the deficiencies they have right now. Even the guys that are gritting it.
Like now, I will say he's right about the guys gritting it out because I mean like Taysom banged up, even some of the guys who are there but are hurt, like that does make a difference. But you can't really ignore that the Chiefs' offense is severely limited right now with Rashee Rice out, Isaiah Pacheco out, Travis Kelce nowhere near the peak of his powers. The Saints are probably do as far as like the deficiencies on offense. You have to be exclusively talking about the offensive line, which no doubt about it, not good, right? If the offensive line, a weakened offensive line against the Chiefs and against what Spags is going to do, that ain't good, okay? But as far as the weapons, as far as the playmakers, as far as what's around Carr on offense, you can get after this Chiefs defense, especially through the air. So it's going to have to be a Derek Carr in the air kind of game. It's going to have to be Chris Olave. It's going to have to be Rashid Shaheed finding himself deep down the field again like he was the first couple of games of the year. This is not going to be an Alvin Kamara game. I have a strong feeling we're not going to be running the football very, very successfully. So can Carr outduel Patrick Mahomes? Can Carr outduel Patrick Mahomes, where Patrick Mahomes is facing a very, very, very good, the fourth in the league right now, pass defense. And Derek Carr's facing a very weak Chiefs pass defense. Who can get the better of that matchup?
Get out. And like AK going out there with broken ribs and playing well. Like I just don't know that can be solidified enough in a Monday night game against the world champions to be able to go pull off an upset.
And if you do want to get into the actual matchup itself, when did you struggle the most offensively this year? When you went against Jalen Carter in that Chiefs front. An elite.
Yeah, true. Now, you could argue that gave the blueprint for the Saints of like, okay, well, let's not fall into this trap again. How could we, if we had a do-over, how would we beat Philly? So you could argue like, yeah, you kind of seen, you've already suffered through the issue. Now can you figure out how to beat it?
Interior defender. And now you got Chris Jones lining up across from you. So the Chiefs defensively would seem well-suited to maybe exploiting what up to this point has looked like your biggest weakness. Because again, Falcons game, you have the pick six, which is very bad on the offense, but on the whole, the offense was fine. It was really good, actually. I mean, 24 points, you'll take that in that situation. If you don't give up an offensive touchdown, you're supposed to win that game.
Yes.
Like the Saints right now, it's something crazy. Aren't they like, they might be like second in points scored and like fourth in like points allowed or something. Like they, but again, that
all time, fourth best all time DVOA power rated team at 2-2. So the Saints are the fourth best 2-2 team in the history of the NFL, according to DVOA.
That was them last year. Remember, top 10 scoring offense, top 10 scoring defense. Why then are you not in the playoffs? Why are you not winning games? And it's because you don't win enough of the little moments. And that's what losing, when you hear the old saying, bad teams find a way to lose, like I feel like that's kind of the sentiment that we're getting at here. And that was kind of the sentiment in the Saints locker room. So Alvin Kamara was talking about, you want to blow people out? Great. I don't give a damn about a blowout. This is the NFL. I'm a vet. I've been here for a long time. This game is decided about what you do in the close ones. And the Chiefs have been masters, whereas the Saints have been not good. Not the worst, but not good.
I've said it before. I really hope the Saints win this game just because of the mental hoops that everyone will have to jump through, me included. Because you can't argue with what T-Bob's saying. Like, you can't argue with the fact that it feels like for the last 8 years now, the Saints just lose close games. The Saints just lose games with a minute left. Oh, you got to make a defensive stop? Here's a busted coverage. Here's Kyle Rudolph. Here's Adam Thielen. Here's the Minnesota Miracle. Here's the last minute against the Rams to force overtime. Here's the Philly game this year. Here's the Falcons game this year. Like it happens all the time, right? Oh, you need to make an offensive something happen. Here's some other issues that pop up. Like it just seems like the Saints are one of those teams that do drop these games. Now, let's say they don't. Let's say they do win a close game against the undefeated world champions on the road in prime time. All of a sudden now it's like, Are those issues vanquished, or are those issues still there? It's very easy to say that someone's not clutch whenever they miss the last second basket. But then when they make the three to win game 7 of the finals, all of a sudden, are they clutch or do they just make a shot? So like this, and that's kind of why this is so difficult, because it's such an unquantifiable thing, but it does seem to be so consistent. So it would be fascinating if the Saints won this game in that fashion, because then it's you would be forced to say, well, maybe the Saints can win the big game. I don't know. I mean, how can we say they can't? They just won the biggest big game against the undefeated world champions at their house. Is it done now? Like this would be the time for a Derek Carr like last second drive. I mean, I can't even imagine what the narrative would be if Carr leads a last minute drive to give the Saints the win. I don't know what would happen with a lot of the narrative, because the Saints would be right back to front page news. They'd be right back to the biggest media darling in the NFL. They'd be on every talk show, ESPN, Fox Sports, NFL.com. It'd be just like weeks 1 and 2. And it'd probably be more dramatic, because you'd have a win in prime time against the world champions, undefeated Kansas City Chiefs. That would be a fun week of content.
And so I would love to be surprised. I would love to be proven wrong. I just don't see. I don't see it on paper. Or like Jake said, I can't give them the benefit of the doubt if you're asking me to objectively predict what I think is going to happen. Tay, do you want to? I know you're just bursting.
Well, hold on now. See, like if you objectively do it, you can find. If you objectively do it, you can absolutely find the Saints being competitive. It's the bias. It's the Saints fanhood, the bias, the talking about this team, watching this team every game. That is why you can't get to the Saints winning this game. If you just look at the objectively, it's very easy to look at those two teams. And let's go look at the numbers. Because if you objectively look at the numbers and you take away all bias, if you take away, well, the Saints never win these games. Well, Patrick Mahomes, you have 15, or we have 4, they have 15. If you take all that away and just strictly look at what everything's told you, you would see the Saints 3rd rated team. You would see Kansas City 9th rated team. You would see Saints 9th rated offense, Kansas City 10th. You would see Saints 2nd rated defense, Kansas City rated 15th. You would see, keep on moving here. You would see Saints 9th best offense, Kansas City 10th. We said that. You would see the Saints 7th best passing offense. You would see Kansas City 13th. You would see Saints 7th rushing offense, Kansas City 11th. You would see the Saints 3rd best passing defense. You would see Kansas City the 19th passing defense. You would see the Saints 8th best rushing defense. You would see Kansas City the 2nd best rushing defense. You would see the Derek Carr on his quarterback grading and efficiency through week 4. You would see Derek Carr currently outplaying Patrick Mahomes in both EPA per play and Pro Football Focus's offensive grade this year. You would see the New Orleans Saints rated as the 5th most offensive efficient team by EPA play. You would see the Kansas City Chiefs number 12. You would see the Saints the 5th best defensive efficiency team by opponent EPA, and you would see Kansas City 13th. If you took out the bias, every single metric, every single aspect, including quarterback play, the only thing that the Chiefs do better than the Saints is stop the run. Now, like I said earlier, you do have to kind of put a button on that and put an asterisk on that because of how good Patrick Mahomes is. Last year, I sat here and I said their wide receivers suck. You can't win. Lulls, back to back. Same thing with Tom Brady, where sometimes all that stuff is good and fine and whatever, but something about Patrick Mahomes. And that's where I'm kind of caught. I'm kind of caught in the middle here where I look at the numbers and I say, and it's less to do with Carr, it's more to do with Mahomes. I look at these numbers and I'm like, damn. I think the Saints are sweet. The Saints are better than the Chiefs. The Saints are playing better than the Chiefs. They should be able to win this game. But then I sit there and I think, Patrick Mahomes just doesn't lose these games. Like, it's going to take an absolutely monumental effort for the Saints to beat this guy. Just like it's hard for every team to beat this guy. Just like on the worst years of his career, they're 13-4. They're a 12-win team. You know, like, I mean, how many times, there's people probably in the comments right now, we're 30 minutes into this video, saying Derek Carr plays good against the Chiefs, right? How many of y'all are commenting? How many of y'all are typing that Derek Carr is good against the Chiefs? Derek Carr always plays good against the Chiefs. Derek Carr can beat the Chiefs. Derek Carr knows how to beat the Chiefs. How many of y'all are saying that? And that might be true. He might be good against the Chiefs. He might play good against the Chiefs. He might know how to beat a Spags defense. What's his record against the Chiefs? 1-8? Did you think it was better? The Chiefs just, for some reason, like they're one of those teams that they just don't lose. They do, but man, is it rare. It can happen. I'm not saying it can't happen. I don't expect the Chiefs to go 17-0 every single season. But it is very difficult to pick against them when you know that that's there. That this like unquantifiable voodoo type situation is there. It's like McGregor in his prime. You can sit there and be like, this guy matches up well with McGregor. This guy can do this. This guy can out wrestle him. This guy can do this. The striking, significant strike percentage, the reach, the age, but at McGregor's peak, there was something else there. There was something unquantifiable there. And there was something that you just can't put your finger on it. You know, Tom Brady, Patrick Mahomes, they just have had that in the NFL.
Seen at the seams, talk about NFL. Do you want to weigh in here?
You know, during break, you guys were like, hey, Taylor, we're both going to pick the Saints, so you're going to have to pick the Chiefs.
Yeah.
You know, I hate that we're all
twist.
three in agreement. You're in Arrowhead. It's Patrick Mahomes. And like you mentioned, like, if you watch the Chiefs, like, they probably should have lost to the Bengals. They probably should have lost to the Chargers, but they found ways to win those games. And
they should have absolutely lost to the Ravens and the Bengals. You could argue they should have lost to the Falcons.
I think they're going to do the same thing here. I think it's going to be close, though. I think the Saints are actually going to perform a lot better than people think. But I think Patrick Mahomes pulls this out.
I'm not saying it's not going to be close, right?
I think it is going to be close. It is
going to be close. It's just that the Chiefs will pull it out, is what it feels like. And at the end of the day, if I would just want to be a bit flippant and a bit disrespectful and a bit tongue-in-cheek, the refs will help them if they need to, you know? If we need a pass interference called or not called at the end of the game, the Zebras will be there for their Wonder Boy 15. So.
Well, you know, it's funny.
I will say I don't believe in that at all. I want to put that out there. I don't believe at all that there's some kind of crazy fix against or in favor of the Chiefs.
It's the Patrick Mahomes effect, but then, like, I've also been told that, like, the NFL is actually out to get the Saints, so it's a double there. It's a double there.
I don't think the NFL's out.
They're not.
No. I mean, there really is something to that under Sean Payton. Roger Goodell does hate Sean Payton. That was known. I mean, did you see? I saw a clip from is it Mike Silver, Jake? Right?
Yes.
He's been covering the NFL forever.
Yep.
Very connected.
Yep.
And he was talking about Bountygate, where he's like, yeah, you know, Peyton had pissed off. What story did he tell? I've always heard about after the Super Bowl where he basically thumbed his nose at Goodell, and he told like another thumb-nosing story and basically said like, yeah, like that was over the top because so he wanted to check Sean Payton.
Yep.
Make an example of him.
I heard a crazy rumor about Bountygate, but I won't get into it here. Might be a different conversation for a different day.
So I mean that's not full conspiracy. Now the Vinovich thing is not the NFL calling down and being like keep the Saints out of the Super Bowl. That's just a human being screwing up in the biggest way possible in the biggest moment. And post Sean Payton, I don't think the NFL cares about the Saints either positively or negatively. Now I do think Pat Mahomes does exert a similar influence to a superstar basketball player, right? Where how many times have we seen clips of refs telling young guys, you're not getting that call?
Yeah.
And they're like, what, Kobe gets? He's like, yeah, it's Kobe.
Right.
What are you talking about? You know? And so I think there's some of that, and that's just human nature. So I'm not even really complaining about that. But I think that's why sometimes it feels like the Chiefs consistently seem to get the breaks. But also they're kind of creating the breaks, right? That's my overall point.
Yeah, that's where it's like I don't think so. Because it's like, I know it's Patrick Mahomes, but the NFL, like Joe, they need the Bengals and the Chiefs to have a rivalry. Like that is a benefit for the NFL. It is better for the NFL if the Bengals and the Chiefs are rivals and Joe Burrow is kind of like the second fiddle or whatever to Patrick Mahomes. That is better for the NFL than Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs to just dominate the Bengals every time they play them. So if you want to get into like the marketing business, what is actually beneficial for the NFL, it would have been beneficial for the Bengals to win that game. So, like that's one of those things where if you take a step back and think about what actually the NFL would want in those situations, the NFL probably would want the Ravens to win that game. The NFL would probably want the Chiefs to win that game because they want to prop up Lamar Jackson and Joe Burrow as viable alternatives to Patrick Mahomes. So, I mean, like, it's one of those things that sounds cool, but when you think about it for literally 10 seconds, it makes no sense.
Because they win in all those small moments.
Well, you were just talking about like a basketball player. That's perfect. You see the clip all the time. It's Michael Jordan goes up to the ref. He goes, hey, he fouled me on that. And he goes, you think so? You think so? He goes, I promise. And then he blows the whistle and calls it. Remember? So it's the same thing.
You got to earn that. And if anybody has, Fitting has, for sure.
Now, like on the other side of it, as far as Jones and what he's probably going to do to the interior of the Saints offensive line, the Chiefs haven't been great anywhere else.
There you go. Now we're talking. Not only have they not been great, they've been relatively poor in a lot of other avenues. In literally every other avenue, because you can even look offensively. And they're hurt. So you got a weak Chiefs defense outside of Chris Jones and the defensive line. You've got a weak Kansas City wide receiver core. You've got a weak Kansas City running back room. And when you put it like that, it's like, well, maybe that is more than a puncher's chance.
As far as getting after the quarterback, they're 24th or 25th in sacks this year defensively. So their edge rushers haven't really gotten home. If you're the Saints, it's like the old saying, like, you can't leave there and have 95 be the reason you lost.
Yeah, yes.
So you've got to come up with something to stop him. That's the one that scares you. You have to, and this sounds crazy, but you have to trust your tackles to go win their one-on-one matchups because they haven't gotten home a lot this year, and we know what Chris Jones can do. I mean, he can affect the game as much as anybody at that position in the NFL. So you have to find ways, and it's harder. And you know this, T. It's harder to stop interior pressure than it is, a really good edge, because with an edge, I can put a tight end, I can put a back, we can chip, we can help out. In the middle of the defense, it's a little bit more difficult. So now you got to come up with a game plan to slow him down. Sometimes that comes in the run game. Sometimes it comes with.
Yeah, so what's this sound like to you? Like, let's do an exercise. This is how you handicap a game. So what game script does this tell you? Like, if you're the offensive coordinator, if you're Clinton Kubiak, what is like the first thing you think of, right? All right, we're going to run away from them. So now you're thinking a lot of toss, a lot of outside zone. You're thinking that's going to be a majority of the running. Then you think, okay, well, passing-wise, we're going to have to be quick, probably screen passes. So then you look at Alvin Kamara, you look at that kind of, Alvin Kamara receptions, receiving yards. So that's how you land on those props. So you kind of formulate now, like, okay, here's how I expect this game to go. I expect this game to be where the Saints have to plan around Chris Jones. So they're not going to be running the ball up the middle. They're not going to be having these long, deep ball kind of routes. Alvin Kamara is important. So if we do utilize him, which we will be on the outside or in screens and in the passing game. So that's what you can expect. Then you could think, well, Jamal Williams, like the idea of him running up the middle probably not going to be that big of a factor. Taysom Hill, like how are we going to utilize him? Because again, running up the middle, if that's not really there, how is Taysom used? Do we utilize more of these like jet sweeps with Rashid Shaheed? more screens to the outside to Shaheed. What's that look like? So you start to build this game preview.
Somebody coming across the formation on a wham block to slow him down.
Yeah.
So I was going to ask, do you think Chris Jones can blow up? Because I'm more worried about him. As much as the pass rush, I'm still more worried about him blowing up the run game like Jalen Carter did, where they were able to go big on the line, and they were able, because if the Saints can't run the ball, the offense is never going to do well this year. Like, they have to be able to run the ball or nothing is going to work.
You can slow down an interior guy in the run game better than you can as far as, a pass rusher, because
and I guess what I'm getting at is, like, I feel like Jones is kind of more of like not a pass rush specialist. He's good at everything, but I feel like that's always where you feel his impact more. But maybe that's just because the NFL throws more.
No, that's what Chris Jones is. Chris Jones is I don't know how you'd phrase it, like more of a pass rushing interior line. He's more of a like Vita Vea is more of the, like, I'm going to plug the middle. You ain't running up in here, brother. Chris Jones is much more of a, like, he's going to do his stuff in the interior. He goes up on, like, he chooses what side he goes off on. He chooses, where do I want to be on the defensive line? Where do I think I have an advantage? Where do I think I can get to the quarterback the fastest? Right? That's Chris Jones' MO. It's getting to the quarterback.
I don't know. I don't feel great. I don't feel great about Monday.
Because in the run game, you can do now the Saints' offensive philosophy, it might be a little bit more difficult, but, you can go down, and around where, you just crash him down and run around him.
Yeah, that's true.
It's play as old as time. And so I just would not let him beat me. He would not be the reason that I lost. Because he's the one guy.
He can't be. Like, Kubiak has to know that. And Kubiak has to know after Jalen Carter. He has to know, like, all right, well, I know what's going to work and what's not going to work.
Up front, they can really mix it up.
I know, but the problem is a lot of people say that. And then he's that type of superstar where it don't matter what you want to do. Yeah. It matters how I'm feeling.
No
today.
doubt about that.
You got to hope that he doesn't have it. Maybe he doesn't have the day. Thank you, Matt C. It was the pill scandal. Remember the Vicodin and everything, Jake?
He had taken from the room or whatever.
A lot of pills are going missing, et cetera, et cetera. Bad look for the NFL. They didn't want to get it out. Then the Bountygate thing happens, and so it was kind of, I think, partially punishment for running a little fast. They were just kind of viewed, I think, as running a little fast and wild there for a little minute post Super Bowl. Which, how can you be? You just won a Super Bowl in New Orleans and you were young. Like they just flew a little too close to the sun for a little minute there. All right. So unfortunately, we're all in agreement. But hey, man, it's the NFL. Everybody's good. Go win the game. And the Chiefs got to lose eventually, right?
True.
I need them to.
I mean, you have to lose a game eventually. You can't go undefeated.
God.
So
72 Dolphins did, but
here's to hoping that's today. Wow.
I mean, on one hand, it does show, like, how much better the Saints are. That everyone is like, yeah, I think the Saints lose, but I think they keep it close. Before the season, or last season, like, imagine, like, yeah, we're going to go to Kansas City on Monday night. We're going to keep it close. Like, people would have been like, yeah, I'll cut my arm off for that. I think the Saints do keep it close. I think the matchups do benefit the Saints. The biggest matchup is the fact that the same matchup that every NFL team struggles with. The matchup against Patrick Mahomes. But the Saints can win this game. Again, I do think it'll be close. I do think it's a one-score game. I do think the Saints plus 5.5, plus 6, whatever it ends up being, is the play. I'm filming this. I mean, we still got to go through a couple days of injury reports. Like, if all of a sudden we have crazy injuries, this isn't going to age well. But I've said the same 4 scores, like, over and over again. 21-20, 21-17, 24-20, 23-20, somewhere in there. Like, somewhere in that ballpark is going to be this game. When it's that close, we saw it against Atlanta. Pick 6 here, muff punt here. As great as Patrick Mahomes is, he ain't the one returning punts. He's not, like other stuff can happen in this game. So the Saints have to take advantage of something. The Saints had to play a perfect game. But the Saints can win this game. It's going to be a thrill to watch. I cannot wait for Monday night. It's going to be absolutely insane. Give me down in the comments below. Give me your predictions. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video.